Hey friends, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today we're in the kitchen and we are going to make one of my family's favorite and most requested holiday recipes. It is an easy croissant recipe, and these are delicious flaky rolls. Now, if you are a baker or if you've baked a lot of breads, you probably know how tricky and how time-consuming making croissants can be. But not this recipe. This recipe is simple and easy, and they always turn out super delicious. So if you want to see how we make these easy croissants, stick around. Guys, I really appreciate you coming back. Now today, like I said, we are going to be making a recipe for some easy croissants. Now every holiday about this time, middle of November, I make a super big batch of these easy croissants, and I take them with us for the holiday meals with our families. I also keep them in the freezer for just making sandwiches and things with them, and just enjoying them even, as rolls with other meals. And I usually have to make another batch then for the Christmas holiday too. But these are highly requested by my sons and my husband, and they are super delicious and very easy. So even though this is an easy recipe, it does take several hours, or you can divide it up into a couple of days. Now, you're not working or anything during that time. It is just refrigerating. And so you can either make this in one day by mixing the dough and then putting it in the refrigerator for at least 4 hours until it's chilled all the way through, and then roll it out. Or you can make the dough one day, stick it in the refrigerator, and you can roll them out up to 4 days later. So you've got some wiggle room there. So they're really easy. You just have to have some dough chilling time. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do, and I'm just going to mix it up in my mixer, but it's really simple to mix up, so you could do it in a bowl as well. We're going to have a wet portion of our batter, and we're going to have a dry portion of our batter. And we're going to do the wet portion first. So I'm going to take some dry active yeast, and I just have Red Star, and I buy it in bulk like this, and then I just keep it refrigerated or frozen, and I put it in a jar, and then when this jar is empty, I refill it with the new stuff. And it's nice to have on hand, but I do keep it refrigerated. It does last longer. So what we're going to do is we are going to add 2 packages of active dry yeast. Now, one package is 2 1/4 teaspoons, I believe, and I just usually use a tablespoon because a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, and that is fine. So I usually use 1 tablespoon per packet. So this needs 2. I'm going to add 2. Now, this is a really large recipe. If you want to cut it in half, it's really easy to cut in half, and it would make a smaller amount. So to my 2 packages of yeast, and this is just regular yeast, I'm going to add 2 cups of warm water. And they say about 110 degrees. You don't want it hot because you don't want it to kill your yeast, but you need it warm enough so that it will activate it. So we're just going to let this set in here for just about 5 minutes until it gets bubbly, and then I'll bring you back. All right, my yeast is nice and creamy. And here's a hint. If you have some yeast that you're not sure if it's still good, maybe it's past the expiration date, or it's been in your refrigerator, because it will last longer than the expiration date in your refrigerator or your freezer. You can test it and just add a pinch of sugar, or like a teaspoon of sugar, to your water and yeast mixture and let it set 5 to 10 minutes. And if it starts bubbling, you're good to go. Now, it may take a little longer to rise, but it will work. So you may want to use a little extra. But that's a way to test your yeast to see if it's still active. And mine looks like it's doing great. I just have the water in there and it's nice and creamy. We're going to add 2/3 cups of sugar. We're going to add a can of evaporated milk. And the amount is 1.5 cups. And always shake your milk before you put it in so that the stuff on the bottom gets all mixed around. There we go. We're going to add 1 stick of melted butter, 1/2 cup. A tablespoon of salt, and yes, 1 tablespoon. This is a big batch. And 2 eggs. And I'm going to give these eggs just a little bit of a whip before I throw them into the mixture. Just to break them up, because this is going to be kind of a thin mixture, and so we'll just get them started here. Okay, 2 eggs. Get it all in there. Whoops. That over there. And we need 1 cup of flour. I'm going to give this a mix first, and then we're going to add the flour. Okay. And I've got all of my flour for the rest of it measured out, and it's a little tall, but I think we're okay. So there's our flour. And we're just going to mix that together till it's smooth. So I just realized that I need to add 2 cups of flour to this, so I'm going to go ahead and put another cup in here. I was looking at my recipe and I did not read that right. So we're going to put 2 cups of flour in there, and that's going to make it a little bit thicker. Okay, now we're going to take this and we're going to set it aside. This is our batter, and that is finished until we need it in a few minutes. Now we're going to make the dry portion of our croissant dough, and I am using this bowl of mine, and this is one of my most treasured bowls. It is a bowl that belonged to my grandmother Borgmeyer, and I have memories as a child of having this full of fresh milk from the milk cow, and she was letting it set so that she could scoop the cream off of it. I remember dough being in here, so she used this bowl all the time, and I was so happy that I was able to get this bowl, and I treasure it. I always have it on display in my kitchen, and I use it a lot to let doughs rise in, but it's just an heirloom that I really treasure. So I hope you have some things that have been passed down to you and that you get to use as well. I love to be able to use things that belonged to my ancestors and remember them while I'm using them. So we're going to put in this large bowl. You'll need a large bowl. We are going to put chilled butter. Now this butter I just took out of the refrigerator. It is 4 sticks of butter, which is 2 cups of butter that have been cubed. And I just took each stick, cut it lengthwise, flipped it, cut it lengthwise again. Then I chopped and made little cubes out of it. Real simple to do. It just took about 3 minutes. And then I just kept it in the refrigerator until I'm ready to use it. It has to be cold. So we're gonna put that in our bowl. Then what we're going to do is we are going to add the remaining flour. And so I put 2 cups in here. We have 8 cups left. This recipe takes 10 cups total. So this is 8 cups of flour. And what we're going to do is we are going to be taking this pastry cutter and we are going to be cutting in that butter, but we don't want to cut it in too finely, not like a pie crust or a biscuit. We want to leave little bean-sized pieces because that's going to give us our flakes. And so when I do this, I just need to make sure I don't overcut it in, but I don't want to have a whole big chunk either because that will just melt and run out of the croissant. So let me real quickly, if you have a way that you prefer to cut your butter or shortening into your flour, by all means do that. This is my preferred way because I can see real carefully what I have and I won't overdo it, and it's just the easiest thing that I find for myself. I know some people like to use their hands. Now the problem with using your hands on this one is your hands are warm and you're not wanting to break it up real small. So you don't want to melt those pieces into the flour. So I suggest using knives or a cutter. Somebody might want to try a food processor. The only problem with the food processor is you can really easily go too far. And I've just about got it. Just going through it all here. Now, when I say bean size, think of a dried kidney bean. Okay, let me show you what I have. Okay, so there is flour, and then there are these chunks of butter that are about the size of kidney beans. And they're throughout the flour. I could sift it out, you could see it better. But you're going to have chunks of butter in there, about the size of kidney beans. Okay, so that looks good. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our liquid ingredients, and let me just take this out of here. And let me just give it a stir with my spatula. And again, if you have a few little lumps, again, no problem, they're gonna get worked out. Okay. And what we're gonna do is we are going to pour this liquid batter over our dried flour and butter mixture. usually when you're making croissants, what you're doing is you make a dough, then you take pieces of butter that you flatten, and you put the butter between layers, roll it out, turn it, roll it out, turn it, refrigerate it for a little bit, bring it back out, roll it out, put more butter in there, roll it different directions, put it back in the refrigerator, and you keep doing that until you get a really nice thin layers that have butter in between. And that's what makes a croissant really flaky. Now these are not going to be as flaky as that, but they're going to have the flavor and they're going to have that butter in those little air holes just like that. So these are delicious. So I've poured that in. Now all I want to do is I just want to kind of moisten this, and I'm just taking my spoon and just folding it over until the flour is moistened. You just want all of the flour moistened. And it takes a little bit when it sets, it'll even moisten up better just to soak up that flour. But it's looking pretty good. Don't start stirring because you're going to break up your butter. We're just folding over just so that those little pockets of flour get some wet dough right next to them. It breaks the dough up a little bit so there's exposed wet dough hitting the dry flour. And I think this is about right for me. It will absorb more, but I don't want to overwork my dough yet. So I will show you what I have. I'm going to put some plastic wrap over this, and I am going to sit it in the refrigerator. Like I say, a minimum of 4 hours because you need the dough completely chilled. And it also gives it a chance to do a little rising. I always do mine overnight and work it up the next day. And that's what I might do with this. So I might not come back until tomorrow to finish. Unless this evening I have some more time, I can finish this evening, but we'll just see. So I'm just trying to get the dough off the sides of the bowl because that'll just dry out, and then get the spatula. So it's not going to be pretty. It looks like that. But like I said, it's setting and it's absorbing all that moisture. So I will put this in the refrigerator with saran wrap or plastic wrap on top. And then when I'm ready to roll it out at least 4 hours, I will bring you back to do that. Okay, you'll see me in just a second. For me, it'll be a while. Hey guys, it is the next day, and these have been rising for about, well, they've been in the refrigerator for about 24 hours. And today I'm going to be rolling them out and then letting them rise and baking them. And let's see what the dough looks like. Not very pretty, but let's take it out of the bowl. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it out and we're going to put it on my board here. And you can do this on your countertop, your plain countertop. And put a little flour on here and just turn it upside down. And it's got some floury spots, but not many. And then some parts that are more wet, I'm gonna get a spatula to get whatever's in there. And just a little bit stuck to the sides, but we want it all. Okay, I'm gonna set this right here because we're gonna be putting some dough back in it. We're gonna be working with small portions of this. But the first thing we wanna do is we want to knead this about 6 times. Now, it's a really big blob and it's very cold and it's quite firm. And so I will probably do just a couple more times just to get it mixed and incorporated. Whoops. And I just take the palms of my hand and push out like that, flip it over, push out, flip it over, push out, and trying just to kind of get it into a ball. We don't want to overwork it, and this has to be cold, otherwise your butter is going to be melting into your dough, and we don't want the butter melting into the dough. We want those pieces of butter. So I think I've got it into somewhat of a nice sphere, and so I'm going to cut this into, let's see, 8 equal pieces. So I'm going to first cut it in half. And you can just see all of the pieces of butter that are in there. Okay, and then I'm going to take a half and I'm going to cut it in half again. Now, if you wanted to be exact, you could get your scale out and you could weigh it, but I'm not exact. And then each of those I will cut in half again. So from half of it, you'll get 4, and from the other half, you'll get 4. So cut the half in half, cut each of those into halves, and I kind of pick them up and weigh them. If one is obviously a lot different, then I'll add a little dough, but none of them are obviously different. So what I'm going to do is gently, not very hard, just kind of push them into a circle, and I'm going to place all of them but one back into the bowl, and I'm going to put that in the refrigerator where it will keep cold. Again, I'm not kneading, I'm just pushing. Okay, boy, those are cold. Okay, I'm going to cover them up and put them back in the fridge, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got one ball here, and I'm just going to push it together. I'm going to scrape my board because there was some pieces of butter that fell in. And again, just pushing. And I'm just going to kind of get the outside a little bit floured, and I'll just use that scrap flour that we have right there. Okay. Then I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so let's start off with a little fresh flour. Not very much. And again, just trying to make sure it's all pushed together. And we are going to roll it into a circle. Now, it says about 17 inches across. So we'll see what we get. And since it's cold, it is pretty firm, and that's fine. That will make it a little easier to work with. It won't stick quite as badly, because you do want to limit the amount of flour you have and that you use. Now on a pie, we're not real particular about the circle being, you know, nice and round because we can patch it. On this, we're going to try a little harder to get a nice circle, or at least a circle shape, because that will affect the size of our croissants. And if you don't care if they're not uniform, that's great, because we don't either. We just like the taste, and it's nice to have some that are small and some that are larger. Now, as you roll, you're going to see some butter appearing, and I'm going to show you. Let me roll it once and let this expose again. And of course, I'll have flour all over me. And that butter will have a tendency to want to stick to your whatever your rolling surface and your rolling pan. Let me show you what that butter looks like. You see the butter in there? So that will be, if it starts warming up, that'll be a problem. So you do want to work quickly. And just working the dough like this warms it up. Today it is a beautiful day out. Yesterday it was rainy, dark, and cold. Today's the sun is shining. I don't mind the rainy, dark, cold days. Every once in a while they're kind of nice. You kind of feel like you can bum around a little bit, but these sunny days are really pretty. Okay, I think I am going to stop about there. And again, I'm rolling from the middle out. All right. And this, of course, is not a perfect circle, which is fine with me. I think you can see that. Oops, which direction? There you go. All right. So now what I do is I take a pizza cutter. Now you can use a sharp knife too, but I like to use a pizza cutter. And I go directly through the center, across, and that would be like the 12 to 6 on a clock. Then I'll turn it and do the 3 to the 9, and then I'll divide those up, and each of those pieces get cut into. Now my board is not on a turner or anything. I think it's just moving easily. Worked out perfect for me. Okay, so here's how we roll. We're going to take our triangular piece, like a piece of pizza, and we're going to start at the long end. And I need to figure out, I think you can see right there. And we are going to start rolling it. And we don't have to roll it tightly because we want to have those air spaces in there, those pockets. And then when we get to the tip, we're just going to kind of press it. And that's going to be actually underneath the roll, so it'll hold itself. So let me get one of my sheets. And I've just put parchment paper on mine. I sometimes just do it with a regular sheet that's been sprayed, but this will work great. So I take my croissant and I put the point down, and then I'm just going to turn it and you can shape it however you like. I don't like to shape mine closed. I like to have it more of a moon shape, but whatever you like to do. Now these are going to rise and double in size, so it's going to be bigger than that. Now if you were wanting to make really big ones, then you would have to divide your dough into less balls, and then you would have to roll out a bigger circle, and that would make a larger roll. But these are the perfect size for sandwiches, like small sandwiches, and for dinners. So I'm going to do another one. Again, we're going to start at the top, the wide end, and we're just going to roll, and you don't have to roll tightly, all the way down. We're going to have that end piece right there, this little piece right here. It's going to be tucked underneath the roll, and then we're going to do kind of a moon shape. And sometimes they're wanting to fight you and not do the moon shape. Now when you put these on your sheets, you want to leave an inch to 2 inches between them, because they are going to double. Let's do another one. Roll it. And you do need to work quickly, because as the butter melts, it's going to get sticky. And here we have some butter that's already stuck to the board because it was warming up. And I don't know if you can hear that, but that's my washing machine on the spin cycle, and we're probably going to get a pretty little tune here in a minute saying that it's all ready. Okay, and I'm just going to get these all rolled up. So each circle is going to make 8 rolls, and we had 8 rounds, so we are going to get 64 croissants. So if you don't want that many, you can cut the recipe in half. It splits in half perfectly. No odd measurements. These are great to freeze, and that's what I'll do with ours. I'll freeze them. I'll keep a few out, and we can just enjoy them on sandwiches, or just enjoy them with breakfast or something. And then I'll freeze the rest in Ziploc bags. And then when it's time to go to our family events, I will just take out the bags that I need and the number I need and take those with us. And then before we eat, I will just lay them on a cookie sheet and warm them up real quickly. And that in the oven. Now you can also warm them up in the microwave, but I find it's a little trickier, especially when you're doing a lot, so that you don't get any of them dried out. So I usually just put them on a cookie sheet. A lot of times I'll cover them so that they're sealed in, warm them up, take the foil off the top, and then just let them finish drying out a little bit on the tops. And again, it doesn't take very long at all. But these work great. So here is what our pan looks like. And I'm gonna go ahead and roll out the rest. I will bring you back when I've got them all rolled out and show you what we have. Okay, I just finished rolling them all out. I have 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 sheets full. And I just want to show you what I do to let them rest. I take a piece of saran wrap, plastic wrap, and I just kind of lay it on my pan, and then I just give it a burst of spray. You can use your pan spray, and then I carefully take it off, turn it over, and then they're covered, and they have that spray on them so they won't stick to that. And then what I'll do is I'll cover them with a tea towel, and this one will be able to cover up too, like this, and let them rise. Now they're probably gonna have to rise for about 2 hours because they are cold. So you want them to be doubled in size, and then once they are risen, I'll bring you back and tell you what we do next. All right, so it has been a little bit over 2 hours, and these are just about ready. I decided not to put the cloth over it because I have them back here in our sunroom, and it was actually pretty warm in here because the dehydrator was going. And since they were cold, I didn't want to trap that cold in under the towel. So it looks to me like they're doing pretty good. Let me bring you down here just a little bit. And when I push them, if you see a little indentation that remains, they are ready to go. These look like they're still popping back. And so I think I'm going to leave them for just a little bit longer. I've got my oven started. I've taken an egg and added a tablespoon of water, and I've whipped that up, and I'll be brushing them with the egg wash before I put them into the oven. So I will show you that when I start doing that. All right, it has been a little over 2 hours, and we're going to give this a try. It's going to take a long time, and I can still feel these are cold, but they have risen, and I don't want them to go too far because then they start collapsing, and I don't want them to collapse. And so what I've done is I've taken 1 egg and 1 tablespoon of water, and I have whipped it up, and now I'm going to give each of them a coating of this egg wash. So we just put it on all over, and this is why you want them not to be overly risen, because if they have gone over, they'll just be collapsing when you do this. And they're quite resilient right now. And my oven is heated to 350. We're going to bake them for about 30 minutes, but it's all dependent on your oven. Sometimes they can take less. And also the pan. Some of these pans are insulated, some of them are not. So the ones that are not insulated will probably cook a little faster than the insulated ones. All right, so I'm going to get these in the oven. I've got all the other ones that I'm going to egg wash, and I think I could probably get 3 pans in my oven, but I don't think I want to overdo it. I think I'll just do 2 pans at a time, and we'll see how it goes. I'll bring you back when they're out of the oven. These just came out of the oven. They're very hot. You can see a lot of the butter has just, melted around, and they're just beautifully golden brown. And the bottoms are nicely brown. This is an insulated pan. I took them out in 25 minutes with this insulated pan. And my oven even cooks at a lower, it seems like it's a lower temperature, and usually I have to cook longer than it says. So you want to really watch your rolls while they're baking. The directions say 30 minutes, but it's not that long for me. So just keep an eye on them. You don't want to overcook them, but you want them to get done all the way through. So I'm going to keep going, and then after they're all done, we'll come back and do a taste test and open them up and see what it looks like inside. Okay, these 2 guys just stopped in. I think they must have smelled our croissants baking. So they're having a little bit of the brisket chili for their dinner, and these just came out of the oven. So we're gonna let them do a taste test. And you might
So
show
has your
them
name written all over it.
That's just a little dinky one. So you might want to show them how they pull apart. Let's get it zoomed.
Very
in
flaky.
there.
Oh my goodness.
Very flaky. Oh, I missed the little one.
Steam coming out.
Yes, very flaky.
Cheers.
Melt in the mouth.
Buttery, moist, tender.
Is this something you always look forward to during the holidays?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys heard it from these two. These are really good and easy croissants. I hope you decide to make some.